2.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sorry for the delay in terms of starting. We were having a bit of technicalities in terms of just switching the session from the room 1 to the second room, but I believe that has been sorted. So my name is Victor Otieno. I'm the County Chief Officer, Digital Economy and Startups. Just want to welcome all of you to this particular session where we'll be discussing digitalization of informal sector in Kenya. So again, the whole gist of the entire Tech Week is to be able to explore collaborations between, of course, county government as well as with the different stakeholders who are, say for example, within the SME space in Kenya. So we have a very powerful panel. We have a very powerful list of speakers that we hope will be able to unpack this particular session. So maybe without further ado, I would want to start with a bit of keynotes, just different organizations to be able to share what they do, the challenges that they have. Then possibly after that, then we can be able to have a panel session where we can be able to explore collaborations. Then probably we can be able to have 1 or 2 presentations from 2 startups, one from Egypt, another from Mexico, from I think Malawi. Then probably we can just be able to get a way forward. So I would like to introduce our Chief Officer for Hustler Opportunities, Ms. Zipporah, to just give us an overview in terms of what Hustler Opportunities is all about. Karibu sana, Chief. Can you give a clap?
I want to stand on the already established protocols and say all protocols observed. My name is Zipporah Mwangi, Chief Officer for Business and Hustlers Opportunity. Good afternoon. I want to do a brief presentation of the sector so that you're able to understand what is business and hustler opportunity and what, as a county, NAIROBI County, we are focusing on matters to do with business. All right, so that is our background. According to Kenya National Bureau of Standards 2020 Economy Survey, the COVID-19 pandemic had unprecedented impact on the economy, especially the informal sector. Self-employment in the informal sector grew by 5.5% from the estimated 14.5 million % in 2020 to 15.3 million persons in 2021. Arguably, the informal sector created about 753,000 jobs over the review period. Such success were witnessed due to growth in digital space, prices for the informal sector. In Kenya context, the informal sector accounts for 32% of Kenya GDP and offers approximately 77% of employment opportunities. It is imperative for business to make their services accessible to marginalized populations through digitization. Digitization of the informal sector is a key driver for better financial inclusion. Through the aid of technology, forward-thinking businesses are capitalizing on opportunities for innovation to meet unmet needs. So as a business and hustler sector, the sector was established by His Excellency Governor Johnson Sakaja through an Executive Order number 1. And the sector is headed by a CCM and 3 chief officers. The sector has 8 subsectors and 8 directorates. So for the subsectors, we have NAIROBI, we have business and hustler opportunities as a subsector. We have markets and trade as a subsector and also cooperatives as a subsector. In business and hustler opportunities, we have Nairobi City County Liquor Board as a directorate, micro, small and medium enterprise as a directorate as well, and gaming and betting and rotaries as a directorate. For markets and trade, under it we have trade licensing, trade and industry, weight and measures, and markets. All those are directorates. Under cooperatives, we have cooperative development and audit. So I will narrow down to the theme of the innovation, which is largely catered in the MSMEs. So the MSME Directorate was established on 22nd December 2022, following His Excellency Johnson Sakaja's Executive Order number 1. The Directorate key mandate is to support the growth and the development of micro, small, and medium enterprise through the following functions. Function number 1, access to affordable credit, that is Biashara Fund. And the digital opportunity in this function is to ensure that innovation is unleashed for economic growth, which include now the Biashara Fund, will be managed through management of information systems to ensure financial inclusion of indigenous MSME. Provision of financial support to the MSMEs, again, is also an innovation that is geared to addressing challenges within the informal sector. So the second function is capacity building, business counseling, advisory and consultancy. So in this function, we are looking at informing the MSMEs using bulk messages, educative information sharing via the Directorate's website. So the digital opportunity in this function include now access to digital financial literacy through training for both formal and informal MSMEs, digitization of financial records and operations of MSMEs, and looking forward to establishing, we're also looking forward to establishing a business incubation hub. And of course, we will be offering mentorship programs for MSME and startups. The third function is enhancing market linkages through support of MSMEs participation in both local and international exhibitions or trade fairs. So the digital opportunities in this function is to establish an e-commerce platform to market MSMEs product and services both in local and international markets. So in conclusion, entrepreneurs that maximize in digitization to rethink their businesses model will gradually thrive and gain a competitive advantage. This shall make them more impactful and sustainable while ensuring interconnectedness with other economic sectors. That is, in brief, that is what we do as BHO. So our focus is to ensure that we are taking care of businesses and we are giving them an environment where they will thrive, to tunaweka pesa mifukoni. Thank you very much.
Can give her a round of applause again. She's dressed for the occasion. Next up, we have Karim Bayo from ILO, Technical Officer, Enterprise Formalization SME Unit at International Labour Organization. Karim will be joining us virtually, so if the technical team is ready, we can just queue him up for his keynote. Welcome.
Yes, Andy, thank you. Just to check, can you see my presentation?
Karim, you can proceed.
Yes, just a question. Can you see my presentation so I can start?
You can proceed, Karim.
Okay, so yes, thank you very much. As mentioned, my name is Karim Bayo. I work for the ILO, International Labour Organization in Geneva. I'm in charge of work related to addressing informality and enterprise formalization and supporting informal sector enterprises to formalize. And today, in this short input presentation, I will be talking about the possibility that digitization can have to enhance this transition to formality of enterprises, and also supporting government to improve and implement the different support programs that contribute towards formalization. So first of all, when we talk about the informality of enterprises, as was also already touched upon in a previous presentation, this is not marginal. So we see on the global level that around 80% of enterprises of economic units are considered as informal, meaning they are either not registered, they are either not paying taxes, they are either not complying to certain sectoral regulations and so on. So this is, especially in developing and emerging countries, a very common phenomenon. And when we talk about the informality of enterprises, small enterprises or also medium and large enterprises, it's also always important to consider that there is a dimension of the informality of workers. So people employed in these enterprises. And if you look globally, we have around 60% of enterprises employing people who are informally employed. In Kenya, the share is on average even higher. So depending if you look at the rural or urban region, there are differences. What we generally also see is that more women workers are considered or are part of the informal economic activity. And in addition to that, when looking at the different sectoral activities, many are engaged in activities such as wholesale trade, resale trade, and other less value-added activities. So when talking about transition to formality from the perspective of the ILO, why are we working on this area, and what is the background for working on this? So first and foremost, our work related
Sorry, apologies for technical challenges. Okay. No, innovation doesn't mean things are easy. Yeah, so probably we can just pick it up. We can be able to pick it up later on, maybe, so that we just move on in terms of time. Is maybe just to line up our next speaker. We can get back to Karim in a few once we've been able to take care of our technical issues. I would want to welcome the chair for the Kenya National Federation of Jokali Associations, who represents MSMEs, a bulk of the majority of the of us 8-point-something million SMEs in Kenya. I want to introduce Mr. Richard Muteti to come give us just an overview. So whenever we talk about SMEs, informality, these are primarily the customers or the clients that we're talking about. So, I mean, it would be very important to hear it from the horse's mouth. So that possibly after we are done with this session is what are we going to do to ensure that we're able to digitalize the informal sector. So I mean, hearing from them would give us a bit of context for this conversation to move forward. Karibu sana, Chair. Can give him a clap.
Thank you very much. All protocols observed. Thank you very much, Chief Officer for Hustlers in NAIROBI. I concur with the data that was projected. My name is Richard Muteti. I'm the Chief Executive of the Kenya National Federation of Jokali Associations, as well as the Head of Secretariat of the East Africa Community Confederation of Micro and Small Enterprises organizations covering the 7 countries, and the Chairman of the COMESA Business Council SME Work Group for the 19 countries. It gives us pleasure to be here today. I had prepared some talking notes, but Chief Victor has mentioned that I give some deeper background a bit. I want to affirm here that the MSME sector, majority of whom are in the informal economic sector in Kenya, are divided into 4 subsectors by law. We did an act of parliament in 2012, MSC 2012, number 55, that divided the MSMEs into small manufacturers, small traders, small service providers, and the agro. In totality, as of 2021, just to add a bit to the figures that were given here, apart from the 15.4, the 15.4 did not factor the agro-based. The agro-based, that included small farmers and the guys who had cattle and so on. As of today, the total is around 20.2 million in the country. So that's where we are. You'll allow me to read the speech that I had made. If I knew I would have prepared a small presentation. So once again, we are privileged and honored to be part of this forum. We were happy to join the governor on Monday in the inauguration of the first ever Innovation Week for this county. And I take this opportunity to thank the Nairobi City County government, together with its key stakeholders and players in the digital and tech ecosystem, for conceptualizing and hosting this innovative Nairobi Tech Week 2023. This event itself, an innovation of its kind in Kenya and in the region, especially in the way each session and track has been curated with uniqueness and focus. I was here, and everybody was passing on the booths with awe. There were so many young tech innovators, young CEOs, young founders, and it was very exciting. So the Kenya National Federation of Jokali Associations, which I head the secretariat, was registered in 1992 as the umbrella body representing the primary Jokali associations in the country, whose members are skilled artisans engaged in the production of various goods and services in the various subsectors, with a structural network through the counties to the constituencies in Kenya. As the informal sector representative organization in Kenya, we are therefore very lucky that we could be part of this conversation. We are especially thankful to our partners, the ILO, who are a global authority on informality, for also working with us to co-host this particular session. We feel that the conversation about the nexus between informality and digitization of the informal sector is long overdue. Ladies and gentlemen, in most low and middle income countries like Kenya, the informal sector makes up most or almost all enterprises. Kenya's informal sector is commonly referred to as the jua kali sector. The Swahili word for this is fierce sun, because most of them operate on the roadsides, on areas that are not very well prepared for them and so on, which comes from the thousands of work sites where artisans manually work on auto parts, furniture, metal, wares, handicrafts, and so on. The jua kali sector operates in 18 subsectors currently. Most of you know the furniture, wood fabrication, Masai market, handicrafts, and so on. In Kisii, we have the soapstones, and so on. So, as per the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the Economic Survey 2021, I don't have to go through again, we have just been given by the chief what it takes. The government of Kenya, in its economic development plan, the one that the president is calling the plan, has since prioritized implementation of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda better. In the development period between 2022 and 2027, the role of the micro and small enterprises sector in creating jobs under this agenda is promised on a strong linkage of the MSME sector with the national digital superhighway, including the digitization of the informal sector, so as to leverage on the latter's infrastructure and technological capabilities to promote the transition of informal sector from informality to the formal economy. At the continental level, Africa's informal economy presents a huge opportunity for the continent to create decent jobs. The informal sector, which accounts for approximately, in Africa, 55% of all the regional gross domestic product and up to 83% of all total new jobs per year, is significant for alleviating poverty and promoting economic development. In this regard, the ILO, among other key stakeholders, organized a regional workshop on strengthening apprenticeship systems in the informal economy in Africa to promote quality, innovation, and transition to formality that took place in Cotonou, Benin, in February 2023, and in which workshop the Republic of Kenya was very well represented by several public and private sector representatives, including myself, representing the informal sector from this region. The Sub-Sahara Africa Skills and Apprenticeship Stakeholder Network was officially launched on 24th July 2023 at the Presidential Villa and Continental Hotel in Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nigeria. Again, Kenya was very highly represented, and this time round, the informal sector was represented by Architect Wambua Nyamai in Nigeria 2 weeks ago. The role of the informal sector is therefore expected to continue in the foreseeable future in light of Africa's growing population. As the continent aspires to achieve the globally agreeable sustainable development goals by 2030 and beyond, the sector has 74% of women employment and informal work standards among most of the youth on the continent. Transforming this sector using digital tools is therefore vital for Africa's growth and socio-economic transformation. Digital technology can transform the informal economy by improving the type of job opportunities in the sector, particularly in the areas of digital entrepreneurship. Digital marketing, e-commerce, and other technology services, a World Bank report, Digital Africa, themed Technological Transformation for Jobs, points to evidence that shows that internet availability has a positive impact on creating jobs and reducing poverty in Africa. Access to e-commerce and online information via digital tools is necessary for workers in the informal economic sector. Ladies and gentlemen, while the usage of technology in Africa has been increasing over recent years as technological strategies are now being implemented in various industries, the digital divide continues to grow in Africa. Only 2% of micro-sized farms owned by young women and 8% of micro-farms owned by young men use computer. The World Bank notes that Sub-Saharan Africa, of all the regions in the world, displays the largest gap between the availability of digital infrastructure and people's actual usage. Governments must create an enabling digital environment to allow the informal sector to incorporate technology into their daily lives. For MSMEs operating in the informal economy, digital technology can give them access to relevant information, which can help them make more informed decisions and improve their business operations. Digital transformation can also provide the informal business sector access to new markets, customers, and so on. Further, digital transformation can improve financial inclusion in the informal sector, and I'm sure this is some of the issues that we'll be discussing around. So therefore, in conclusion, nearly 8 out of 10 employed persons in sub-Saharan Africa are in the vulnerable forms of employment in the informal sector. Technology is therefore essential to transform the African informal economy and promote decent jobs. With the aid and usage of technological innovations and resources, MSCs can also carry out business activities more competitively. Certain factors limit the adaptation of technology in the informal economic sector, and I don't want to preempt them because I'm sure perhaps they'll come out of here. But we have some expectations from this forum, and one of them is that together with the Nairobi County government and other stakeholders, we will be able to do a joint mapping or identification of relevant stakeholders in the digitization of the informal sector, not only in Nairobi, but in the country. 2, we'll also expect a development of a draft tripartite collaboration framework to pilot digitization of informal sector in Kenya. 3, development of a draft Nairobi County roadmap to digitization of the informal sector. Once we get those 3 take-homes and craft them into programs that add value to the informal economic sector, we'll have done justice to our people. I'm once again thankful to the Nairobi City County government, the ILO, and other key partners, stakeholders for hosting this inaugural innovative Nairobi Tech Week 2023, even as we look forward to our continuous engagement in deepening the digitization of the informal sector in Kenya. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think we are now back on from ILO, so probably we can just queue it up so that he can be able to finish his presentation. Then probably we can just shift gears towards panel. Once you're ready, you can just proceed.
Okay, there must have been a glitch, but I can just follow up. So yeah, just to add to what I've been saying before about why the ILO is working on transition to formality, it's also really the question of what are the benefits of becoming formal and staying in a formal economy. So here on the chart, you can see some of the benefits that I think some of the other speakers have already mentioned and alluded to. So the possibility to access formal forms of finance, to become eligible for government support, but also to access new business opportunities, be them in the digital economy or also in other marketplaces that are beyond the own geographic region. We see that access to social protection is also a very important part of the formalization process, and different approaches to digital technology can also protect this and contribute to decent work for the workers. On the other side, beyond decent work, it's also about motivating employees. Employees who get their salaries in time, let's say through digital payments and so on, are also more motivated, and also this creates a better working environment. In general, when digitization is included in this policy framework for transition to formality, it also enables enterprises, workers to comply easier with the law. Let's say they have digital technologies to pay taxes, to pay social security benefits and so on. But on the other side also, it enables, let's say, inspections and the government generally to enforce existing laws, and also have a better overview of how the informal sector or how small enterprises in general are structured. So after talking a bit about the, let's say, more comprehensive and conceptual approach, I brought some examples to showcase where the ILO has been also documenting global case studies of supporting transition to formality through digitization. The general approach when we look at the transition to the formal economy, it's really first and foremost to make it easier and to register and to comply with existing regulations, which includes capacity building to inform entrepreneurs about issues such as bookkeeping and financial literacy, and this can be increasingly done through online platform, but also to enhance simplified procedures. Let's say creating one-stop shops, putting together different registration procedures, which also reduce the time and cost for enterprises and small business owners to formalize. At the same time, it's also about making it more attractive to formalize. So not just to say the formalization is an important aspect, but actually provide some incentives and benefits to do so. And in the global experience and examples that we have, we see that through digital technology, small enterprises or the informal sector can become part of public procurement activities, but also access private markets, be them in the digital economy or in other forms. And the same accounts to access to finance. Many that are unbanked or that have no easy access to financial services can, through mobile money applications or similar formats, be supported in this endeavor. The third approach is really looking at how to make it more feasible to formalize. And this really means to increase the capacity of actors in the informal sector to formalize. Because I think it's also very important to mention that given the large size of the informal sector, it will be difficult to formalize the entire informal sector at once. So it has to really be a gradual approach and looking at those that have the capacity and the means to formalize. And in that sense, the digital applications and different digital processes can enhance this procedure. And when we talk about this, it's also always important to enhance the importance of productivity. So becoming part of the formal sector means also that businesses are more productive, they sell more, they have a better performance, the productivity of the labor force increases. So it's really important to consider different policy areas in an integrated approach. And finally, digitalization can also support formalization by looking at strengthening the capacities of inspections. So be it supporting them to do factory inspections, but also training the capacity to negotiate and consult with informal sector actors of how they can improve the compliance with existing regulations. And the last point here is really about the institutional coordination. So when we look at the transition to formality, we are not only talking about business registration, but we are also involving issues of complying with taxation, being able to comply with sectoral requirements, but also enhancing social protection and labor protection regulations. So when these different actors who are responsible for these different policy areas coordinate better, the transition to formality can also be much more sustainable and also much more durable. And by creating digital platforms, be it through a one-stop shop or similar approaches, this institutional coordination can also be strengthened. And all of these approaches are really based on a process of dialogue, so tripartite dialogue, and also a voice representing the informal sector and the informal sector workers. So it's really essential to say that this is a government and tripartite approach, which also reviews and includes the voices of the workers. In terms of concrete capacity building activities, the ILO has been collaborating, for example, with the Microsoft Corporation on the Women in Digital Business program, and the program really aims to close the gender digital gap for entrepreneurs, and really looks at those enterprises that have between 0 and 20 workers. So we're talking about the micro and small enterprises sector here. And of these, many are informal and engaged in agricultural, manufacturing, and service sector activities. And in terms of the approach, this is really combining business development training, let's say technical assistance, but also training to understand how to use digital tools to enhance business activities, to broaden the customer base, but also to market the process. And I think some examples of these have been already mentioned before, so I'm not going to be too detailed about this, but here we are really looking at how to enhance this access to the services, while at the same time providing support on how can you formalize your business. So next to really selling online and so on, how to register it, how to get a tax certificate and so on. So it's really about combining these different approaches. So next to this individual capacity building programs, the ILO is also supporting work under what we call e-formalization, and it's termed as a policy approach looking at transitioning from the informal to the formal economy through technology. And the concept of informalization really looks at these three main areas. So first of all, to enhance e-governance development. The second is to increase investment in technology and innovation in the economy by also specifically supporting the development of the digital economy. And then the third point is to combine different policy frameworks that are linked to transition to formality. So what I just mentioned, business registration, taxation, social protection, labor protection, and so on. So really bringing these different aspects together. And we have documented some of these case studies in different countries that have applied this approach, which might not be fully representative for Kenya. However, I think it gives some entry points to also see how different regions are tackling this issue. So for example, in Korea, they have really used the technology to streamline social protection administration processes, so making it easier for enterprises to register their workers for social protection. Also have put in place a one-stop business registrations approach, which was online, enhancing, let's say, support to labor inspection through a so-called electronic petition system, which essentially enables workers to signal to the labor inspection if there are certain procedures at work that they don't think is okay, or they feel like their working conditions are being compromised at work. So there's like a anonymous way to report to the labor inspection, which also increases the agency and the voice of workers. In addition to that, the example shows that public procurement has been digitized, so smaller enterprises don't need to fill out the complete and the complex forms to submit a bid, but they can use it by accessing digital tools. And just in terms of key success factors, because I just mentioned that this example might not be applicable in any context, but the key success factors here were to address the digital divide. So I think one of the speakers already mentioned this before, but also to build the capacity, the digital and technical capacity of the civil service, to work hand in hand between the public and the private sector, but also to have high-level leadership. So having a real political commitment to continue and support these initiatives. My second example that I will briefly touch upon is from Peru, which also included different policies to support formalization through digital technology. And in Peru, they were really focusing on increasing the productivity of small enterprises. And this was done, for example, by creating a digital campaign and a website, which was really emphasizing customers and consumers to buy in Peru. So this was a platform providing enterprises the opportunity to market their products, to sell them online and so on, and also use the brand of this buy in Peru to signal that they are being supported by the government, and also that they're using digital technology to enhance their performance. In addition to that, legislation was simplified and revised. This included, for example, the unified digital taxpayers registration, all this linked to reducing processes and costs and time also for the informal sector to transition to formality. A third key point is on the issue of incentives. So why should the informal sector formalize, and what are the benefits? So this is really about communicating the benefits and also making it easier. And in the case of Peru, this was done through supporting, let's say, workers, but also enterprises who were not having a bank, so they were non-banked. They were able to receive government support through digital wallets. So really having this openness to also apply the different approaches also contributes to increasing the effectiveness of such policies. And then finally, the last point I want to mention here is about improving the monitoring and inspection capacity on the side of the administrative institutions. And this was, for example, done by requiring enterprises to submit their electronic payroll monthly to the labor authority. So this also reflects really the capacities of the inspection institutions and so on, but at the same time makes it easier for enterprises to comply with existing regulations. In terms of important aspects to consider for this example, especially because in Peru the digitization infrastructure is also not as developed as in Korea, it's essentially about improving policy implementation and monitoring to also strengthen the coordination across the different levels of government. So the example that I just mentioned also before. At the same time, the public service needs to really attract digital talent. So staff in public service administrations have to understand the processes, have to understand how digitization can deliver better services. And finally, really because we're talking about small enterprises and the small enterprise sector, processes need to be simplified to the extent possible. Often digital technology can help through that, but it's not only digital technology, it's also about generally thinking how can we design customer-oriented formalization processes for the informal sector. So this is my last slide, and this is basically also summarizing some of the enabling factors that need to be in place to enhance the transition to formality through technology. And this is first and foremost, the physical infrastructure needs to be in place. There has to be a functioning digital ecosystem. In terms of data, digitization provides a lot of opportunities to understand the needs and the priorities of the informal sector, but whoever is also implementing this approach needs to be able to capture this data and utilize this data. Reducing the digital divide, I think we have already mentioned that. In terms of technology uptake, MSMEs need to be capacitated and motivated to use more digital technologies. And finally, when we talk about the regulatory framework, we really have to look at the variety of policy areas. So it's not only about supporting them to register or to pay taxes, but actually how can they improve the protection of workers, be it labor protection, social protection, and also meet sectoral requirements that are important to really make sure that the business is safe and provides proper workplaces. So this is it for my presentation, and I give over back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bayo Karim. Such an interesting perspective and interventions that ILO is doing towards the informal sector. And I always say formalization of SMEs should be a byproduct of support, so that we don't just pursue formalization for the sake of it, so that we can be able to regulate them, but just to be able to give them enough support so that formalization becomes a byproduct of support. Even as we curated this conversation around how do we digitalize, is we need to be able to support MSMEs in Kenya. We know that SMEs contribute 33% of Kenya's GDP. They are 98% of all registered businesses. Employ over 30% of, and I think Chair had indicated in his opening remarks the volume in terms of, or the value that MSMEs contribute towards employment. But we know that SMEs, where 79 or 80% are informal, have a very high mortality rate of 3 out of 5, at least for Kenya, 3 out of 5 businesses close in the first 3 years. So, I mean, there are many challenges, and there are many organizations that are trying to put out interventions, around access to finance. Actually, the next room, we have the FinTech Summit, which is trying to, again, unpack how do we improve financial inclusion within the SME space. We have, of course, people who are playing within the policy space. We have different players looking at markets, etc. So I mean, so the whole objective of this particular conversation is to be able to see how can we be able to systematically apply innovation and digitization to the informal sector in a manner that makes sense to them and adds value to them. And at the heart of this conversation is our SMEs themselves. Of course, bringing two or three different partners to see how possibly we can be able to explore. And just possibly out of this forum is to be able to have commitments in terms of this is what we are saying we want to be able to do as a next step forward. So probably when next year we come, we don't come to give speeches, but we are coming to say, this is what we committed and this is what we want, we've done, these are the challenges we faced and these are the successes. So I would want to switch gears and invite Mr. Wambua Nyamai, who's going to take up the next part of these conversations in terms of facilitating or coordinating conversations among different stakeholders to just explore how better we can be able to digitalize the informal sector. Karibu sana Wambua, happy clap for Mzee, with a very nice suit.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, Chief Officer, my brother Victor. And let me begin by also saying that I wish to stand on the protocols that have already been established and say that all the protocols observed. But of course I must mention, because our Chief Officer for the Business and Hustler of Opportunities is here, Madam Zipora. We are really pleased to have you with us. It's not every other day that you have wakubwas sitting with the small people like ourselves, especially the informal sector. We are treated as the people who are always on the trenches. It is not every day that we have an opportunity to sit with policymakers at such an event like this, so we are really pleased. Of course, thank you very much, generally the Nairobi City County community for really considering us worth of valued partners. Just like it has already been said, I am aware that there are very many other senior government officers here. I see the director for cooperatives together with us here. And I am also aware that our friend from South Africa, we call him Simba. Simba, here Simba is actually a lion. But his name is a bit long, is Simbarashe Chitapi. I don't know whether you may want to come closer. Yeah, let's clap for him. Yeah, please come and sit near here, because you can't just fly all the way from South Africa and come sit at the back. We are really pleased that, but otherwise, thank you very much. So also the International Labour Organization, especially our brother Bio, for that very insightful, and a globally benchmarkable presentation. Colleagues and participants, of course, that session, that high-level session, was deliberately done so because the International Labour Organization, which is a specialized UN agency, is the authority when it comes to the informal sector. Any country has their own local arrangements, legal and policy frameworks, but sometimes they get mixed up. So we in Kenya here, and especially the Juakali sector in Kenya, we always go back to the International Labour Organization when we want to push our policy conversations about informal sector. Because we have a long history here in Kenya with the International Labour Organization as a sector, and also importantly because previous national administrations, their policy was aligned and they put the Juakali sector under the Ministry of Labour. That is our longest history here in Kenya in terms of policy and legal framework. So and because of the changes, the global issues about transitioning or the agenda for jobs, and especially decent jobs, which is also a matter that the International Labour Organization is spearheading and advocating as part of the UN work. We respect that the ILO works under a tripartite kind of a framework where the government sits there and the workers sit there, but also the ILO itself sits on the same, or together with even other the employers. So we have employers, we have workers, and then we have the government. So that is a tripartite framework. So that high-level keynote session was deliberate because we had presentations from the Nairobi City County, and sometimes as a national federation, we represent the informal sector, and we have issues because sometimes when you look at the labor laws here in Kenya, even the Employment Act does not recognize the informal sector. We have issues of gaps. So even when you talk about decent work agenda and issues around whether the informal sector can benefit from decent work or they can make their work better, sometimes the Labor Institutions Act and the Employment Act do not necessarily provide clear guidelines on how the informal sector, especially the self-employed informal sector. The wage-employed informal sector is clearly catered for by their workers' organizations and unions. So we pride ourselves as the Kenya National Federation of Jua Kali Associations as both representing the workers and the employers in the self-employed informal sector in Kenya. So we are both, yes, treat ourselves as such. But let me not do much, just want to say that because we are here to have a conversation on how best digitalization and technology can be of use to the informal sector towards making their work better, improving their work, but also engaging with government and regulatory agencies. So the next step, I think, as it has already been introduced, is to request and invite our panelists. Our panelists again are going to repeat themselves, but I'm going to add one more so that we can now engage and deep dive into this matter. So our brother Bio is still going to participate online. I just want to request that he is supported so that he is able to participate as well at the panel discussion. And then I want to call on these chairs on top here, the following, and we shall clap for them. We shall request them to come forward. Let me begin with our Chief Officer for Hustler and Business and Hustler Opportunities, Madam Zipporah, to take your seat at the front. Thank you very much. She's going to be followed by our Chief Executive, Mr. Richard Muteti. Please join the podium so that we can have the panelists. And this time around, because our brother was quite far, I want to ask Brother Chitapi to just come forward all the way from South Africa. Let us encourage him so that he can feel welcome to Kenya and to Nairobi for this matter. And of course, our brother Bio is going to still be on. So we had requested the Chief Officer for Cooperatives Markets as we looked at it, but since the Director is here, please let us welcome Director to come, Director for Cooperatives to come forward so that she can also join, so that Madam CEO doesn't feel very, very, very lonely. And I don't know whether I saw Janet Daly from DTB. I don't know whether whether the representative from Diamond Trust Bank is here. I don't know. Yeah. So if he isn't, then we can make progress. So colleagues and my very distinguished panelists, I just want to make this very brief. I am not going to ask you difficult questions, and it is not going to be an exam. Yeah. Let me begin by. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Julius. Let's clap for Julius. Karina is the director MSMEs. Yeah, now that Yula alikuwa hakuja, sasa thank you. Congratulate you. And it's actually a good balance because the government is also here. So let me begin with just brief questions. And let me begin with my CEO and ask him to, in a nutshell, ask a very direct question. Is the informal sector, for example, here in Kenya, out of your experience here in Kenya as a chief executive, but also within the region in East Africa, and you've also given us a very, very elaborate speech about Africa, but from a Kenyan case, what would you say is the reception and the drive? What drives the informal sector to take up digital technology or any technology? What is it that is the main drive for the informal sector to take up technology? I don't know whether there is a mic. I hope he's going to be assisted. Yes. Oh, thank you. Confirm. So, yeah, what is your view about the informal sector taking up technology or digital technology for that matter?
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you very much, fellow panelists. For me, I remember in the early 2000s and earlier, the challenges in the informal economic sector, us as their leaders, policy interventions, we try to match their challenges to solutions. For me, technological solutions came out as a very big game changer. I remember most of the complaints from the informal sector, like mamambogas, the people who are metal fabricators, they were saying, and remember that an MSC, an informal sector player, an individual is an employee and employer. An informal sector player is the MD, marketing, accountant, and sometimes even watchman. And that's where they stay. So if today he makes a sales up to around 12 p.m. and he needs to go to the bank to put the money so that he comes back, that queue, sometimes they even used to close their businesses just to queue to the bank, just to queue to ask. When the revolution for M-Pesa came, that they could sell and send money to the account seated there, that was a very big relief. So what drives the informal sector to digital or digitalization or technology is the convenience of doing things. But I'm sure we're going to unpack that as we move on.
Yes, convenience. So it is, so technology, what the informal sector is looking for in tech is convenience, and I'm sure that has been provided. Yeah, so thank you very much. So let me ask our brother Simba. Simba is, I should have said this before, but Simba is a very senior advisor to the NEPAD, and through a project that is funded by GIZ and is based in South Africa. So probably you'll also tell us exactly what he does. Probably should have done a keynote speech, but he may want to also tell us a bit of the actual work that he's involved in. And then after he has done that, because this is Africa, you are more or less like in charge of Africa. You can give us just a snip view of your experiences in working with the MSMEs in your project and from an African perspective. And if you so wish also, you can talk about whether you, in your project or in your activities, you have interacted with the informal workers or traders or MSMEs and what their views are about technology and digitalization. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's share so that if it is not working.
Hello, thank you very much, Chair. And good afternoon to my panelists and to the audience here today. As has been mentioned, my name is Simba Chitape. I work with the African Union Development Agency, but I work at GIZ as a technical advisor. And the particular program that I work with supports SMEs in the green infrastructure space as well as the trade space. And I think it's particularly that second one in trade where we've encountered a lot of informality. The division of the African Union that we work in works with, among other things, trying to develop one-stop border posts. And we know that a lot of cross-border trade that happens on the continent essentially happens through informal SMEs or businesses or informal traders. And I think one of the ways that we have realized is that I think a speaker earlier mentioned support of the informal sector as a byproduct. And we really do see that through some of the SMEs, which are formal businesses that we are supporting, and they themselves assist the SMEs to digitalize. We are here with 10 different SMEs that we've brought from across the continent, and several of them work in a space where their digital innovations assist both formal and informal businesses to access markets, and then within those markets to scale up their activities through various efficiencies. And I'm very excited you'll be hearing from two of them later today about the work that they are doing in that particular digitalization space. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Brother Simper. So that I bring it home, let me ask one of our keynote speakers, and now he's also a panelist, Brother Bayo. He gave us a very, 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 very wonderful speech, but maybe I have heard him talk about Peru. If you can hear us, Brother, I've heard you talk about Peru as a country and how the informal sector in Peru has probably adopted and leveraged on technology. What is the drive? Is it a government-driven agenda, or what is the design like of the digitalization of the informal sector in Peru? If you could share, is it a support-based, government support-based to the approach to the informal sector, or is it an innovators, a market-driven, completely market-driven, and maybe innovators-driven kind of approach? Or how is it like in Peru, if you can give us just a highlight? Thank you.
In Peru is really linked to this e-formalization concept that I briefly described. And this essentially also involves the government. So linking, let's say, government-based support services who are already there with institutions that support enterprises, so sectoral enterprise institutions, productivity enhancement institutions. So really it's a public-private kind of point of view, and not only led by the government, but once this infrastructure and framework is put in place, it's really about the enterprises within this sector who then further innovate. So yeah, this was really enabled by the openness of the government, but also by providing enough space and yeah, room to innovate for market or private sector-based actors to further capitalize on these technologies. And then ideally in the future, this will also lead to more innovations as the regulatory environment is conducive for such change.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bayo. And said I want to bring it home because it is very clear that the governments are very critical and in terms of providing support, infrastructure, legal and policy framework to enhance digitalization and especially the transition of the informal sector towards formality. So I want to bring maybe a high-level comment. I know the Chief Officer already made a very powerful presentation about the sectors and the subsector and even the directorates. I saw the director of cooperatives, I saw the director of MSMEs, and I also the director of markets. And so in terms of structure and government, because sometimes the informal sector is very wide. And I don't know, from a government structure, I saw the departments. Do we have a framework, just like Bio has said, public-private? Do you have a framework that probably engages the informal sector closely? And what is it like for Nairobi City County? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Makau.
Yeah, sorry, Wambua.
Sorry, Mr. Wambua. Like I began by saying, MSME is a new establishment in Nairobi County, and this was an establishment that came about with the new administration under the leadership of His Excellency, Governor Sakaja. And so we are only 6 months old. And from January to July, we all know the financial year ends at July. So we've been operating at a zero budget. But going forward, we'll be able to do a lot because now we have a budget allocation. But beside that, from January to June, we've been putting together a legal framework that is going to guide us on how we are going to roll out the Biashara Fund. But going back to the manifesto of His Excellency and his Deputy Governor, Njoroge Moshiri, they had a vision of ensuring that they will support MSMEs, and this was to be done within the wards. So the target was to ensure that we have 50 million per ward going to support the MSMEs. So with the allocation that has been done within this financial year, 2023-2024, we have allocated 10 million to start with per ward, just to ensure that we are able to financially support MSMEs. We are also able to ensure that MSMEs are brought on board in terms of digitization, in that we are able also to give them an opportunity to access finances with ease, and so that their businesses can thrive. It is through the acknowledgement of the contribution that the MSMEs bring into our economy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Officer, and that is it's very clear. Money is already been poured. There is already money provided. I think that is very good direction from government in terms of providing finances. Yeah, and it's good that you have your technical officers with you so that they can probably now give us the actual mechanics. And let me ask Madam Director, because she's in charge of cooperatives, to tell us whether whether the informal sector is also in cooperatives, and whether the cooperatives as a model has also maybe assisted or provided a solution towards formalization. Yes, you can.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Maybe just to bring everyone up to speed, I'll define what this cooperative is all about. Basically, it's an organization of people who have come together to improve their lives socially and economically. And through that, they mobilize savings, put together, and get liquidity to use in improving their lives. The objectives are normally many. One of them could be the aspect of loans, the aspect of shelter for housing cooperatives, the aspect of transport for matatu cooperatives, and many other types of cooperatives, including farmers' cooperatives. As a department, our role is to promote growth and development of these cooperatives. And in so doing, we work with them, we register them, we give them the education to empower them with the skills, we teach them financial management so that their lives can improve, and many others. We partner a lot with the private sector, I'll just give a few examples. We partner with Cooperative Bank to give the banking services. We partner with Cooperative Insurance Company to give the insurance needs. We partner with CODIC to give the ICT solutions. CODIC is Cooperative Development Information Center. We partner with Kenya Union of Savings and Credit to give trainings, and so we work very closely with the formal sector. Again, coming to MSMEs, because we are closely related, we reach out to them so that we can graduate them into all cooperatives, because cooperatives are very organized organizations. They have very good structures in place. They are audited. Matters of governance is clearly spelled out. In the course of our duty this quarter, we have reached out to the small-scale traders, commonly known as the hawkers or mamamboga, with a view to put them together, to enlighten them on the importance of putting their savings together through a cooperative, to create a pool from which they can easily get cheap and affordable loans. So far, that is where we are. So there's a lot of partnership involved. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let's clap for Madam Director. So it looks like corporates are really formal, very formal businesses, very formal entities. Yeah, so probably, and their operations are completely formal and structured, as opposed to probably the informal sector, small traders and micro traders that exist. So let me bring Mr. Julius Karina to just say, and it looks like, just like Director Corporate has said, they sort of reach out to traders and ask them to form cooperatives so that they can progress and transition, but also grow. So from where you sit, Bwana Karina, maybe you can, and the whole space of MSMEs, starting from micro all the way to medium. Maybe you can comment here in the situation in Nairobi City County. What are the categorizations of MSMEs? And if you have, as a county, you treat them all together, or you have a way of categorizing, and what is the criteria for categorizing those MSMEs, as it were, so that you can be able to give them support as a county government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and also for this opportunity. I think what you can say is from the fact that the governor thought of giving this a clear directorate. I think it was a beginning of changes that we are looking at the informal traders as a very key sector in terms of the GDP contribution. In terms of categorization, I think there are other laws that are currently in the Micro and Small Enterprises Authority 2015 Act that clearly defines what a micro cooperative is, what a small cooperative is, what a small micro enterprise is. And I believe micro is someone who is employing between 0 to 5 employees and have a turnover below 500,000. A small enterprise is currently an enterprise that employs between 10 to 50 employees and a turnover up to around 5 million. And we have the medium enterprises. I think we are riding on the law that is there, and there is a clear categorization. But to begin this, I want to say where we are right now in terms of the county, we thought since inception of the county government, we have never had a policy, the policy background on the same. So we began by formulating a trade policy so that we can be able to document all the challenges that the MSEs, both formal and informal, that actually the challenges that they are going through, and also come up with policy interventions that are there that can be done. In that policy intervention, I think if you look at a draft trade policy that will be subjected to the stakeholders very soon, we have a clear implementation matrix and we have mapped out the stakeholders that we'll be working with. So I do believe where we are going to, we'll have a clear way also of, even in the terms of the data that is not available currently, we are working with other key stakeholders to make sure we map data for SMEs so that we can be able to know the numbers that are in the micro level, the number that's at small level, and the number that are at the medium level. So we're looking forward, and we have actually mapped the key stakeholders that we'll be working with, and we are looking forward so that we can really begin these interventions that are very critical. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, my panelists. I think those were more or less like opening remarks and everybody speaking from where they sit or what they do. So let's get into maybe another round of probably now digitalization and tech and how that plays out in the informal sector. And I just want to probably, let me ask our colleague who is virtual, Bio, in terms of digital tools and, you know, let me say resources, from your experience globally as an international organization, what do you think is the space for innovators intervening and probably providing tools and resources to support informal sector transition? What do you think is the role of innovators and people who are just out there thinking of solutions for digitalizing the informal sector? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for this question. I think first and foremost is really the issue of access to finance. And there are a lot of fintechs that are working in this area already, so this is not a really new field. But when we really look at the transition from the informal to the formal economy, we always ask us, why would enterprises want to do it? On the one side, it's about improving working conditions, getting maybe better payment, having a better job, having more opportunities, but it's also about getting access to finance that can help them to grow their activities and so on. So I would say everything linked to really digitizing financial access procedures, be it through payments, getting credits, but also to structure the enterprise and the business activities more easily, can really contribute, or is a very strong element that contributes to this formalization aspect. Everything else related to accessing markets, really also for businesses that are located in remote areas that might not have the normal physical infrastructure just in front of them, or for who is very expensive to make a trip to the city and so on to get certain services. Whatever can be digitalized in this aspect can also definitely support the formalization part. Next to having the solutions, it's really also about creating the conditions. And I think in the presentations before, we also talked about digital divide, providing skills, enhancing the uptake of technical and technological infrastructure. So this has to go hand in hand, I think. So next to having really innovative approaches, also thinking about the target group, the end beneficiaries, how quick can they move with this transition? And we see that many are already very familiar with online banking, with online payments and so on. So really it's about thinking how can these behaviors can also contribute to designing policies and enabling innovators to design effective customer addressed products that can support formalization. So next to talking about innovators from, let's say, the market and the private businesses, I think that government processes should also be more and more digitized. And this is not something that governments just started doing yesterday, so there is a process there, but I think more can be done. And especially when we talk about the transition to formality, it's essentially also about how the individual enterprise, the individual worker relates to certain regulations and to interacts with the government. So this is also about creating really the space to use technology and enhance the capacities to improve the collaboration, to increase the trust, but also to show that coming or becoming part of the formal economy actually benefits me because the infrastructure is being improved. I have better access to technology, better access to other capacities that can improve my business, help me to grow my business, help me to employ more workers, help me to provide more decent and better jobs, right? So it's really thinking of along this line. So as I mentioned, just to summarize, in terms of the examples, everything related to access to finance, to enhancing market opportunities, but also to simplify regulations has been shown to be very useful in this context. And maybe just to give one other example that I can cite from the African continent actually is in Gambia. So in the Gambia, the ILO has supported the employers organization together with the government and other local actors to develop a formalized business online platform. So it's really bringing together the different information, the regulation that needs to be adhered to in order to formalize. So let's say to register the business and bring different aspects together, while at the same time ensuring that the information can be dispersed and accessed by many in the informal sector with low costs. So these are also different examples of really successful approaches that, however, need really this public-private partnership to be successful.
Thank you. Everybody must be digitalized. It is not just for the informal sector. Even the government must also digitalize. So it's very clear that we are all together must digitalize and utilize digital tools. So Chief Officer, you presented to us, and just like Bayo has said, for example, access to finance is one key area that digitalization could actually come in to support the transition from informality to formality, because they will be visible in financial transactions and things like those. I don't know whether the Biashara Fund is digital or it is manual, because again, your title also has a name that resonates with the Hustler Fund. I don't know, we have a National Hustler Fund, which is 100% I hear it's digital. I don't know whether the City County Biashara Fund is also another Hustler Fund of a kind. Thank you.
Thank you. For Nairobi County, of course, Biashara Fund, our main goal is to ensure that we are creating an enabling environment for all businesses to thrive without leaving MSMEs out of our priorities. So for the Biashara Fund, we'll be our expectation is towards the end of the year. That is when we'll begin rolling out. Like I have mentioned, we've only developed a trade policy, which has to undergo several processes before it is enacted as a law that we can be able now to utilize, or we can be able now to implement. So towards the end of the year, our expectation is that we shall be able to roll out. But in preparation to that, we are still mapping out MSMEs. We are still journeying with them, capacity building, providing mentorship in preparation. And one of our key focus is that even with the indigenous MSMEs, we will need to appraise them so that we get to understand whether they meet the criteria, because again, we have a big risk considering that we'll be giving out monies that somehow people consider to be government money. This is our money. So there is a risk of issuing money and not getting it back. The fund that we intend to roll out is a fund that we are expecting it to be a revolving fund. So we issue this money to these groups, and our expectation is that they will be able to pay us with a small rate. Definitely for us to do that in an efficient and in an effective way, we can only do it via a digital platform, so that we're able to have our records right, we're able to get the data right, the information about our various MSMEs in a click of a button. Yeah, so for sure, we are mainstreaming. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the city county is also going digital, is planning to go digital, and everybody is transitioning to the digital space. Thank you very much, Chief Officer. These are just more of, a next round of questions, and more specifically, of course, there are more follow-up questions, but getting deeper into this subject matter. So let me, because we are just coming to a close, I will just make the questions to two because of time, because we have a few other examples of innovators who are in the house. Probably they may want to make a presentation. But let me ask our chief executive, and like you said, convenience is the main thing. MSMEs always, or the informal sector basically adopts and takes up digital solutions just for convenience. What would you say is a feeling of informal sector? Because we have solutions that are market-driven, and we have also solutions, digital solutions or digitalization programs that are public and government-driven. And both end up giving us the same solution, transitioning the informal sector to more visible form of sector. Does the informal sector also has its own solutions or initiatives, self-driven initiatives towards formalization? Could you be having examples of digitalization initiatives or even solutions that the informal sector themselves have adopted, instead of waiting, for example, to be pushed by either market forces or even by regulatory forces? Maybe you can comment whether the informal sector is willing and to formalize through digitalization, and whether there are any examples. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is truly a very interesting discussion, because digitization is coming with a lot of convenience. It should be noted here that when you talk about the informal sector, you're talking about people, I don't want to call them disadvantaged, but because of the value chains that they operate in, majority of the people, most of them are not really educated. So most of them would not be able to partake those advanced technologies and digitization processes. And I'm just trying to answer your question through a roundabout approach, because there's a lot of lack of digital skills in the informal economic sector. As you digitize, as you create, as you innovate digitization, I've seen the informal sector has been left behind. You will agree with me that we have just seen statistics here that the informal sector is, number one, is the biggest employer. Number two, they're divided in so many categories, subsectors of our economy. So now, for example, if we take a player in Ngong Road, furnitures, that person would like to do is banking online, would like to do is access to affordable credit online, would like to pay his debts online, and would like to sell his products online, would like to market online, would like to have meetings online, would like to do several things online. Now, because I'm not very sure if we're going to talk, I'm going to talk again, yes, just said it. I want to just bring a message to our innovators and the innovation field that, number one, please be patient with the informal sector as you bring them to the digital fold. Don't rush them. Don't assume they're as educated as you are. And two, kindly have a personalized approach towards digitization of the informal economic sector, so that we have a personalized approach to them, and build infrastructure, digital infrastructure that are accessible and simple for them to be able to understand. One of my current conversation, our current conversation is with the Kenya Revenue Authority, where they complain that our people do not pay tax, they do not file returns, they do not, a lot of things. And we are just realizing that we have a serious mismatch because of the expectations of the formal sector. That's why they're called the informal sector. So even when we talk about the digital space, and I'm happy that some of the take-home here will be a joint collaboration towards unpacking the digitization value chain to the informal economic sector, we definitely need to personalize. But informal sector is resilient, very resilient. With or without those digital platforms, they are surviving. So it's a matter of now finding ways of now marrying this movement so that they feel that they have been brought on board. You see, most of them were not able to access affordable credit because they don't know how to make their books, they don't know how to do their returns, they don't have accounts, they don't have operating spaces, they don't have collateral and things like that. That's why they started the chamas. That's why they started the merry-go-round for themselves, to understand themselves. And that's where now the sharks came about, like Shylocks and so on. So if the informal sector do not get solution to the formal approach, there is always an informal way for them to get this. Some of them are very long routes. So as a closure is that a sector that is employing more than 86% of the total population, providing more than 34% of the GDP, we need to have a soft approach toward personalized products to them. And I want to assure the county government here that once we become partners in a structured manner, even these issues of payment of services, rates, and so on, you will be shocked with the potential in that sector. Thank you very much.
Fair, let's clap for him. And just like, so inclusion, I think the issue here is that one of the things probably is that to make sure that digital inclusion, if there is anything like digital inclusion, so that the solutions, the innovations, and digitalization programs are all inclusive. They appreciate that while the informal sector is intended to benefit from the processes, but I think the solutions need to be tailor-made and responsive to their situations so that they are able to come on board and hopefully benefit from the digitalization processes. So as we come to a close, I just wanted to ask the very technical officers here, Mr. Julius Karina and Madam Director Cooperatives, to maybe make more or less like closing remarks about, because they are officers on the ground. They are officers on the ground and they are directly offering services. Public service is always treated as a template. It's a bit difficult to, the public service, they prepare the template, then you go and consume. So when you go there, you fit the suit when it has already been made. It's a bit different from the commercial sector. From the private sector, you have to tweak the product to suit your customers' needs. But in the public sector, it's a bit difficult to fit everybody's needs. So in terms of innovation, I want them to comment both about innovation, what they think from a government services perspective, Chief Officer has already told us that yes, you may want to adopt technology for efficiency. But in terms of innovation, how easy is it for government to innovate, even adopting digital solutions and technologies for the informal sector to feel really reached differently from the way the formal sector is reached? Because it looks like most of the services assume that everybody is the same, and their paperwork and everything you have to do, irrespective of whether you're informal or formal. How is it that government can innovate internally? Thank you very much. So we begin with we begin with the director. Let's begin with the director, then we go to Julius.
Thank you very much. Let me just mention that my name is Dolphin.
Yes.
Aremo. I know he's calling me director through and through. Allow me to respond to the aspect of innovation. As a government, we can do this through partnership with the private sector. That would do ease of business. From where I sit as a technical person in cooperatives, through the digital platform, we can be able to achieve quite a lot. One of them is registration. I am in charge of registration. The service charter talks about 2 months. That is a long period because we have to do the paperwork manually, forward this to the national government where the commissioner sits. We work very closely with the national government on this. And just to mention the second phase of the Hustler Fund targeted cooperatives. So cooperatives have been a beneficiary. My other role is to do elections. I mentioned about corporate governance, and the structure of cooperatives requires us to do elections every year. From the time we had COVID, we have learned a lot. We suspended physical meetings for 2 years, and we allowed cooperatives to do meetings virtually. It was a serious challenge for the small cooperatives. We have categorized our cooperatives into small, medium, and big. The small ones have 100 million and below. The very big ones, when you hear about Mwalimu National, which is the strongest, not just in Kenya, but in Africa, with a portfolio of 64 billion, virtual meeting is not a challenge. But the small ones, some of them do not even have smartphones. And so it's a serious challenge. If there is anything which can be done, we need to bring them on board. So ours are categorized. Then when it comes to elections, because we stopped physical meetings, we required them to do elections virtually. Most of them actually rioted because they didn't know how this is done. Secondly, because these people are elected, they're also politicians in a small way. And so when it comes to elections, they need to talk physically to their friends to be able to give them votes. That becomes a big challenge when it is done virtually. Coming to the products that we offer the cooperatives, it becomes a lot easier to apply for the loans through the phones, to take the loans through the phones, and even to pay the dividends, because at the end of the financial year, there is something sweet called dividends and interest on deposits. And after a general meeting, which I preside over every year, the members expect to be paid instantly. And so the cooperatives with a platform that is virtual is able to pay them by the touch of a button. The other small ones have to be told to wait for a week because they have to do the paperwork manually to establish what deposits you had at the end of the year, because it is a percentage of the deposits. Matters of marketing, we have different categories of the membership. The youth want their loans now, not tomorrow. And so with a product that they can be able to get loans within minutes, they'll be able to get good service. The marketing of the products online will be able to assist. And so in summary, these cooperatives are categorized differently based on the needs. There are those that can afford the platform. There are those that need to be worked with, to be babysat, so that we have ease of doing business. And to conclude, as a county, the Department of Cooperatives has registered about 5,000 cooperatives. We have mobilized total assets to the tune of 600 billion, which is not a small amount. and we have offered employment to 4,000 employees. And so the role we are doing in this country, we contribute about 34% of GDP to this country. And so I would like to encourage, in case there is anyone amongst us who is not a member of a cooperative, please reach out to me. I'll be able to give you a recommendation. It's a good way of mobilizing savings because we do it through check-off and we also do it outside check-off. Thank you very much for even giving me this platform to be able to share with you what I do on a daily basis.
Thank you very much. And very innovative, Madam Aremo. Just to ask the guys who are dealing with the technology, please, our brother back off, please make sure you reconnect him. Just about a minute. I get the notice that he has fell off. Make sure that, sorry, yeah, please, so that he's also following. So innovation, we have heard about innovation. Even the government is allowing innovation, use of technology, including making sure that you can carry out your regulatory activities online and submit reports. Of course, we have had the challenges as well. So let me ask my brother Julius to comment about innovation in the MSMEs and how government is probably deploying technology and digital technologies for that matter to deliver service. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the key areas that we started by the issue of talking about formalization of the MSEs, I think one of the key area issue, digitalization is also an expensive affair, and one of the areas that we are looking at so that the enterprises can enjoy the economies of scale is that the ones that are not formal, we are promoting them to be formalized into either kind of a common interest group, whether it's a self-help group or a cooperative, so that they can enjoy that economies of scale in terms of adopting this system. Because the Chief Officer Digital started by saying that there's a clear challenge that out of 5, 3 of the startups normally fail actually in Kenya. And one of the key areas, the reason why they fail is that the kind of financial records and financial literacy they have also is a challenge. So as a county, we are really promoting the issue of adopting digital platform in terms of the enterprises learning their activities and operations. And through that, they can do that by forming into groups so that they can be able to bring down on the cost. But as a county, one of the areas that we also promote innovation is that we are in one of the CIDP, I think in our County Integrated Development Program, we are looking at having an e-commerce platform where one of the key challenges of the SMEs is market exposure of their products. So you get that an SME has a very unique product, innovative product, but reaching out to maybe even local and international markets, they are not able to. And we have tried our best in terms of physically supporting them to the various exhibitions and trade fair, but we think to scale it up, we need to have an e-commerce platform where they can share that. We also, the Chief also shared that in terms of the to guarantee financial inclusion of the Biashara Fund, we are going to manage it through a management information system. So that one will be very key in terms of reaching out on all the indigenous, including the micro ones that have been left out for long by the financial institutions. So that's a key area that we think can be of so much use in terms of unlocking that issue. But I think moving on as a county, the way we have started it, I talked about, we already have put all the challenges in terms of a policy framework. We are working, we'll be looking, we already have mapped our stakeholders. Of course, in terms of digitizing, we'll have to work with other stakeholders. So our work is just to facilitate and linking them up with these stakeholders who have homegrown solutions. Remember, these people, they just require simple solutions to that maybe they can learn, because maybe it's an individual person who employ like 5 people. So he's not able to maybe be able to buy maybe quite an expensive system. But I think in terms of sort of bring them together, for them to market their products and services together, they can be able to leverage on the economies of scale of a larger group, and where they can adopt one system which they can use to market their products. But key one, I think NAIROBI County is looking keenly on unlocking on the area of market exposure, the e-commerce platform, and also ensuring there is total financial inclusion by rolling the program using a management information system that's going to be user-friendly, that maybe you can actually be able to access information on the seat of in the seat of your coach. Thank you.
Fantastic. Let's give him a round of applause. Two innovations that are coming from the Nairobi City County, a management information system to support entrepreneurs, but also the issue of an e-commerce to aggregate your numbers so that you're able to get the economies of scale and therefore you benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really know that we could have continued, but let me request all of us to be upstanding so that we can give a hand of applause to our panelists because they have come to the end of the panel discussion, and I ask them to go back and they are going to exchange. Thank you very much, my panelists. Please join your seats so that in the next 15 minutes maximum, because we began a bit late, but in the next 15 minutes we are going to request our innovators. So you can just join your seats. You can proceed. We are going to have. I'm going to request our host and chief officer to come, and because he's going to introduce our two innovators who are going to give us at least their experiences, their solutions. And the good thing is that they are not doing it in Kenya, they are doing it across African countries. So please, Chief Officer, I hope I have reserved 2 or 4 minutes for you so that you can take us to the next step. Thank you very much. Please clap for me so that I'm able to fill up.
Very well done, Mr. Wambua, for that panel session. I mean, great insights being shared right there. So, I mean, we want to bring it home and just be able to hear from two SMEs who are trying to or have a solution, different solutions that speak to the issue of digitalization. So I would like to invite Wifli from Egypt to be able to tell us more about the platform that they have. I think presenting will be Mohammed Mustafa all the way from Egypt. I mean, a big clap. Egypt is not next door. I mean, they have really traversed mountains and valleys and fought lions just to be here. So thank you very much, Karibu-san.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Okay. I should have like a presentation? Yes, excellent. When I can exchange the slides? Change. Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay. First of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm Mohammed Mustafa. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wafarli. Wafarli is an instant marketplace. We are operating in the cities in the underserved areas. We are looking forward to achieve the convenience for customers who are ordering their orders online, and also give them the support and the customer service, and cover them with more retailers than they need, and also provide for them good operations. How can we do this? We created a SaaS solution. This SaaS solution consists of e-commerce platform, inventory management, POS point, delivery platform, routing system, AI, artificial intelligence, for getting information about the customers, their needs, and the retailers' needs. Also, we provide for the retailers direct access to loans, so they can access banks and get loans for their support. Also, we provide customers the access to finance so he can pay his taxes, pay his bills, pay everything through one solution. So this is like one system, one solution for everything. So it consists from a SaaS solution, which is the back force of the system. It has the e-commerce, it has a marketplace, it has a delivery platform, it has a payment gateway, it has a smart card that detects the usage of the customer, whether it's a retailer or a customer. It detects his usage, so if he misses something, he didn't order something, it gives him a projection. You may run out of milk, for example, according to your usage, and there is a promotions and some retailers who can provide you with this. The main important part is that we can provide this solution to any retailer, whether you are a small shop, you are informal business, you are a huge marketplace, you are a store with different branches. All of these categories are all connected in one system. For example, I'm an informal merchant, I'm a craftsman, I make good crafts, but I don't have the money to have a kiosk or have a shop or have a store. So what we do for them is that he fills the form that requires some initial data like his ID, everything that we know that we are connecting to a real person. And after the validation of this, he has a shop at our store, and he can provide his products. His creations of the products is very, very easy. He can access it through the mobile, the desktop, the website, anything. There is different delivery platform that we make him to access this system. And through that, he can bought his products, and customers can access his products, and we connect him with the delivery company. Everything is managed. He only needs to put his products, his good job, his good work, and he will get orders and will get money. Also, if he needs like loans or something like this, we give him access to banks and finance institutions that can give him loans. What we do in this, first of all, we make analysis of his sales. So we tell the bank that this man has made sales for in the last period with this amount, and we have projection for his sales to reach this amount, so he can access finance to a certain amount. So the bank has the credibility built on the system and his previous and projections that is going there. For the retailer, he doesn't have to go through complex financing and so on. All of these things are done on the system. He only adds his products, and the system does everything else. He only waits for the delivery guy to come and pick the orders, and he receives his money. And in the front, we have the e-commerce, delivery, payment gateway, smart card, and so on, and many options are there in the system. Okay, market size is, no, we don't need this. We don't need this, okay. Our plan, we are now working in Egypt. We are working in the underserved areas like, we don't work in the main city like Cairo and Giza, no, we're working in the underserved areas, which is actually, makes the 70% of the market share. For example, Egypt consists of 27 governorates. All of the retailers are concentrated in the Cairo and Giza. But actually, 70% of the market share is outside Cairo and Giza. We are working in these areas, the areas that is unserved, and we are working with formal and informal small retailers, factories, warehouses, wholesale merchants who are in this area. This is a huge market, and we have this solution, and that can be integrated in any city, integrated in any country easily, because it is a SaaS solution. It only needs connection or connections and facilitating from the government that we are going to work on, and all of the things are working online. No needs to have like hard working or physical work. It can all work online. With using AI, it takes actions. It resolves tickets. It needs minor customer service interaction, but all of the other things are being interrupted and solved automatically through the artificial intelligence agents that are in the system. What our plan? Our plan, we are now trying to attract more 1,000 merchants to achieve over 7 million USD this year. And the next year, we are trying to attract more 4,000 merchants. And after that, we are trying to attract more 8,000 merchants and to achieve 280 merchants. I'm going to give a brief about me and my team. This is me, Mohammed Mustafa. I'm the CEO and co-founder. I have like 15 years of experience in software development, project management. I have worked all over the MENA region. I have worked in different companies. I have founded a startup before, which was working in EdTech. We provide EdTech software management and building capacities for the employees and the graduates of the universities. We have been working with several universities and we have achieved a lot of success. Then I exited this startup and I found this Wafarli. And my co-founder is Ali. He has 10 years of experience in logistics and supply chains and so on. And also we have a fantastic 50 team members who are divided between developers and marketing and operation. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mustafa. That is fantastic. Congratulations very much. I think this is very interesting for, especially the butchers. I mean, butchers. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah. So your solution touching different types of informal enterprises, and I think it is doable. It is very clear that technology and solutions, digitalization, can go any length. It can cross borders. It can provide very far-reaching impact in terms of solutions. So let me ask the next innovator. The next innovator who is going to present to us. This is from Malawi. He's a Malawian, Roland. I don't know whether Roland, you're in the house. Please, let's clap for Roland as he comes all the way from Malawi to come. And please, if his presentation is ready, please put it up as he comes so that we can also have experience. Thank you very much, sir. Karibu.
Thank you. Like I've already been introduced, my name is Roland Mwali, and I am co-founder and CEO of a startup called Maziko FinTech from Malawi. Yeah, where this is not my pitch. It's not a pitch presentation. I specially crafted this one for this particular session. So it's about digitizing agri-food trade, which is the sector that I'm trying to digitize on, to work in. Yeah, so our project that I'm working on is called Milimo Online Agri-Food. It's a marketplace platform that aims to connect African smallholder farmers and food producers to high-value markets from across the continent and beyond. All right, so I will start with a question. How many in the room have heard about Mercado Libre? I think I can see 2, 3 hands, not so many. Okay, so why I took this as a case study, it's Mercado Libre is an e-commerce platform, more like Alibaba, Amazon. It's a long time that it was founded, in 1999, more like Alibaba. It's in 12 countries in North America, and it has got about 174 million users and 10.5 billion in revenue last year. Why I'm giving you these numbers is because Mercado Libre is an interesting case for us because it's not widely known, yet it has got these metrics. Mercado Libre, it's only focused in digitizing the informal sector in North America. It's a big thing in North America. That's why we don't know about it here. All right, so our inspiration at Maziko for the solution that we're building, it's a digital trade facilitation tool, trying to leverage on the intra-African trade, and the African Continental Free Trade area to facilitate intra-African trade. I mean, our inspiration is these kind of headlines and stories that we look at every day. Ghana presses for, I mean, we've just heard that India has banned the export of rice. We know the impact that COVID had on trade. And we know we're currently in that situation right now, the war in Ukraine and Russia, how it has affected trade, and the value chains and supply chains of food and agricultural produce. These are the stories that have inspired innovation and that we're working on, which is a trade facilitation platform called Milimo Online. Our opportunity, the opportunity that we're looking at looks like this. We all know about the AfCFTA, which is the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's about, the size of that market is $3.4 trillion. The AfCFTA, the 54, 58 countries, it's looking, the number of people in that market block is about 1.3 billion people, 54 countries, and the amount of trade, how we're trading as Africans amongst ourselves, is only at 16%, which is far much less than the rest of the world. Europe is at 60-something percent. The North America, which I was just telling you about, they're trading amongst themselves, which is not what we're doing. The problem is our supply chains, the way we trade, it's informal. Our sector is informal. People don't have access to the tools that our friends have. We have faced a number of challenges building this solution, which are the challenges that are everywhere else. Even here in Kenya, I've heard them being mentioned about up here. One of the most important challenge, I say most important challenge because it's something that we're trying to work on, it's limited digital literacy. This has kind of constrained how innovations are rolled out, because we first have to train the people to take up these innovations, and access to technology. Where I'm coming from, Malawi, this is a huge problem. Not so many people have got access to smartphones. Not so many people have got access to the internet, for example. These are things that our governments and ourselves as innovators should work on. Trust and reliability, you have to be trusted. So this has also been a challenge for us in rolling out these digital innovations that we're working on. Lastly is logistical and infrastructure challenges. These are across the continent where we have bad loads. The infrastructure for tech itself, the networks and everything is a challenge for us to trade as a people. Sorry, the title says challenges, but this is just our team. Yeah, like I said, I had to craft this just for this particular event, and I was a little bit in a hurry. I might have just overlooked that one, but this is a team. This is the team that is facing those challenges, by the way. Yeah, so it's myself. So myself, Roland Murray. Stella Zwango, she's our COO, which is the Chief Operations Officer. She's based out of Uganda, where we are actually piloting the Milimo Online Marketplace platform, being a tool that is trying to facilitate intra-African trade. It just requires us to be in a number of markets to actually pilot that innovation. Our colleague, not to intimidate you with the lawyer thing on top there, but she's our Chief Commercial Officer. She's Shusopa Banda. She's based out of Zambia, where she's also helping us in piloting the innovation. And lastly is our Chief Technology Officer, Clifford Mwali. Lastly, I just want to walk you this snapshots of the solution that we are working on. So this is the marketplace, and this is the homepage. This is what you see when you log into the platform. This is the homepage. So it just shows you like how many products are on the platform, from which countries, the number of countries those products are coming from, the suppliers or sellers that are on the platform, and customers that are actually interacting on the platform, trying to buy stuff. Like I said, this is an agri-food marketplace focusing on agriculture and food products. This is just another page. We're looking at the suppliers. You go on that, it actually shows you the filters there, the number, the countries that are on the platform. You click in a tab of that particular country, you see the sellers or suppliers from that country. Yeah, this is just the marketplace product page where you actually seeing the products from different countries, and you actually can buy right from there or just preview the product, or you can just put an inquiry you want to find out more from the supplier about that product. That's basically it. Yeah, these are just screenshots. I'm just trying to tell you that the platform is mobile responsive, although we are also working on a more optimized mobile app, but it is responsive on mobile as well. That's that. All right, although it was not a pitch presentation, I would just like to tell you that we are here trying to pursue partnerships, looking for partners, and engage with other stakeholders. And by nature of being trying to facilitate intra-African trade, it means we can work in a number of markets, even here. So we're looking at the director of cooperatives, which is what we're doing. I mean, aggregation is the most important thing on our platform. So thank you so much. You can reach out to me when you see me outside. Thank you so much.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. I want to confirm that you have surmounted all the challenges, so you're not part of the challenges. And we are coming to the close of this session because it was actually, here we close business at 5, it's just about 4:30. We just want, and we began at 2. We were supposed to begin at 2, but we began a bit late, 2 hours. So let me conclude or bring us towards a closure and say, take-homes, what we call take-homes. There were 3 main take-homes, or what we expected out of this session. And I can see that already we are achieving that. I have heard from Mr. Karina and Director Arome that you know you intend to support traders, and one of the suggestions was actually the issue of an e-commerce platform. But I am involved, Madam Chief Officer. I know the city county is doing quite a lot under your sector, and I think myself and Mr. Karina and a bit of other officers in the county are in an initiative called the County Aggregation and Industrial Park. And I know the conversations, the county has already made a decision about the location and the value, but I'm aware that the national model of the county, all the 47 counties, the national model for the county aggregation and industrial park is agro-based. And I know Nairobi, we don't grow too many things, but I'm wondering whether Nairobi City County can position itself as the hub for market access and aggregation for even those agricultural produce that are coming from, because they always pass through here. Most of them pass through here. Either they go by, except for those that are going by sea, but those are going by air, including flowers and many other things they are coming. So the ideas. So one of the objective, or one of the expected outcome of this was to map, mapping of relevant stakeholders in the digitalization of the informal sector. I can already see relevant stakeholders key that we can start to talk, exchange contacts, and with the guidance of the county government, especially your sector, where the informal sector falls, and also the sector that deals with the digitalization. The other one was, probably we can speak about this a bit later, but I can confirm that out of this session, we already have an idea of who are key stakeholders that are relevant in the digitalization of the informal sector, towards transiting them to the formal economy, but also supporting them to better do what they do in terms of generating jobs and also revenues. When we were talking in the waiting room, I think your colleague chief officer for revenue was surprised that there is even a Juakali sector in Nairobi. He was surprised that yet we pay licenses and all manner of rent and rates. So probably this is the space for us to know each other better and create a framework of collaboration. We are happy that the trade policy, the draft trade policy, is already in the works. We'll be, actually, Mr. Karina should be, he knows better that we as an organization, we are one of the key stakeholders that are in that policy. We may want to pick this and share our experiences and try to engage more structurally. But otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, the issue of how we collaborate, what framework we are going to use, so that we can even pilot a program here in Nairobi County for digitalizing the informal sector. We can suggest to begin with hawkers, we can suggest to begin with Juakali artisans, we can suggest to begin with food markets, we can suggest to pick whichever sector or subsector of the informal sector and see how we digitalize, even as a pilot. Otherwise, we are happy that the city county government has a clear agenda, policy agenda, and you're even developing a roadmap. Everything is within your work plans, your CIDP, but also the annual work plan. So we'll be looking forward to engaging a bit close now that you have a new financial year and you have allocated some money and you intend to implement some initiatives. We are very happy that there are opportunities for us to forge collaborations and partnerships in that regard, and especially towards formalization or transition from the informal sector to the very formal economy, as it were. So with those few remarks, I want to give apologies of our keynote speaker from the ILO, our brother Bayo. He has to fall out because he had other engagements, and he has sent his very, very, very hearty apologies, but he has appreciated the engagement, the useful engagement. Our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Richard Muteti, has also stepped out because of many other engagements, so he will not be able to be with us as we close. But I just wanted to say that we are very pleased as key stakeholders and the hosts of this session for the very, very, very useful information that we have gathered. Going forward, I think the Chief Officer for Digital Economy and Startups will be coming forward to probably, apart from those that I have mentioned, to really close this officially and hopefully also give us pointers to what we expect between now and the next Innovate Nairobi Tech Week 2024. Thank you very much for listening to me and being my very good listener and audience. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Karibu.
You're very athletic. The stairs on this side. I don't know if I'm allergic. You're allergic to me, anyway. Yeah, but maybe just to reiterate and just to give again a vote of thanks to all partners that were able to make time to even curate this particular session. The Kenya National Federation of Juakali Associations, ILO, GIZ, NEPAD in absentia. We had anticipated also to have NEPAD being part of these conversations. Again, County Government of Nairobi, the different sectors that have been represented. I mean, for us, it's not just an event, but for us, the outcome for us was, what are we going to do next? What kind of commitments are we going to make to ensure that we are able to support the digitalization of the informal sector? So, I mean, just to say thank you on behalf of the County Government of Nairobi, His Excellency the Governor Sakaja Johnson, who was here with us on Monday, and just wish you well, and we hope that we can be able to have programs that come out of this. So to all our partners, we'll be reaching out to you very, very soon to see the possibility of being able to actualize actual programs that we can be able to report next year. It's not 2024, Ambua. Oh, yeah, it's 2024, actually. I thought it was, yeah, but 2024, God willing, we can be able to, report and take stock of what we've done. Asanteni sana, and probably just as a last thing is for the panelists who are here and the speakers, maybe just to line up to just do one photo session as we wrap up. Asanteni sana, and God bless you all. Mr. Steve, on behalf of ILO.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Asante. Thank you very much. God bless you. Yeah.
Asante. That is going to be discussed tomorrow morning, as well as Smart City. So you are all welcome to those particular sessions, I think, which would be of interest to you. Asante sana.